As a teenager, Manny Scott's soul was consumed with anger and despair. Early in his life, his father was incarcerated, and at the age of 16, his best friend was brutally murdered. However, when he discovered the power of his own words, it set Manny's life on a new path. Joining us via Skype to share his story is Manny Scott. Hello, Manny. Welcome.
Hello, my friend. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. In your book, Your Next Chapter, How to Turn the Page and Create the Life of Your Dreams, you talk a bit about your own journey and then you give tools on how to do that. Tell us about the early years. I'm particularly intrigued because there's a line in your book where you say, the second semester of my freshman year, my best friend was murdered brutally. When my best friend Alex was killed, something inside of me died with him, and I went into a dark depression.
Yes.
How on earth did you get to that spot where you're in a rough place and then your friend is killed too?
Yeah, well, that was the culmination, my brother, of a very long journey of just heartbreak and pain. I come from a beautiful family, but a very broken family. My father's been in prison almost my entire life. My stepfather was a hardworking man, but he was addicted to crack. And when he got drunk or high, he became possessed by something or someone who terrorized my family. And there were many, many nights when I had to see him beat my mother, and I would as a little boy try to fight for my mother's life. Before I was 16, I lived in 26 places. Uh, we slept on the floors of homeless shelters, slept in cars, slept on beaches, and there were many nights when I would be so hungry that I jumped into dumpsters, tore open bags, and sifted through garbage to find something to help me make it through the night.
But Manny, let me ask you though, what you're describing, for most people, they would not call that beautiful. So what would you say was beautiful about the family?
Well, my beautiful people, they had the best of intentions. There was love there, but there was just so much pain. And so when you look at the people, they were not defined by their circumstances. They were greater than their circumstances. They had great hearts, beautiful minds, but we just had a lot of problems. But in spite of the problems, I could always see their beauty, their value, their potential, their worth. And so that's why I say they were beautiful people, despite the circumstances. But those circumstances broke me down.
So now,
And
as you travel around the country, I mean, earlier on, you say 200 days of the year you're traveling.
yes,
What are some of the things you see with the people you talk to, the young people you talk to? What are some of the recurrent things that you see?
I see this generation. I speak to maybe 300,000 or 400,000 people a year, and I'm seeing a depression. This generation feels as though they are the abandoned generation. They feel as though people don't see them. They feel as though no one loves them. They feel as though they have been abandoned by those who are responsible for them. And so I'm meeting kids who are crying themselves to sleep at night. A young lady came up to me sobbing, and I said, "Baby, what's wrong?" She said, "Mr. Scott, I come to school every day and I try to put a smile on my face and I try to act like everything's okay." She said, "But people make fun of my hair, my clothes, my shoes, and they don't know what I'm going through." I said, "Baby, what's going on?" She says, "When I leave here, I go home and I cook for myself, I clean for myself. I'm raising my little brother and sister by myself." And then this little girl, middle schooler, pulled her shirt up and she says, "I have bruises all over my body." And then she pointed down at her private area and she said, "I'm bleeding from my private parts. The men are hurting me. The men are hurting me. Help me. Help
Wow.
me." So that's what I'm seeing: rich, poor, black, white, everything in between. There is a need for hope all across this nation, all over the world.
Let me ask you though, in your book, one of the things you do is you talk about love, you talk about faith, you talk about gratitude.
Yeah.
In your own journey, what difference has Jesus made? Or what was his effect on turning you around?
Well, when my friend was brutally murdered, I was standing over his casket, and a big part of me died with him. And I just gave up. And I believed, after I dropped out of high school, when I say I gave up, I dropped out of high school. I was smoking weed, getting drunk, stealing cars, breaking into houses. And I was just angry. And I was saying things like, man, people like me, we ain't supposed to make it. Whether you're black or white or Mexican or Asian, and you live in my hood, something is set up for us to fail. And so I was in this broken place. I was crying out with that philosopher who said, life is an endless pain with a painful end. It was in that place of brokenness, that place of misery, that quagmire of despair, that a complete stranger sat down next to me and told me about Jesus. It was in that place, a man who was addicted to drugs, he was addicted to crack, but through his own brokenness, through his own addiction, he still had enough compassion to sit next to me and tell me about the good news of Jesus Christ. And I was looking at him. I'm like, man, he says, why are you sitting out here on a school day? I said, man, I don't go to school no more. And he looked at me and he just started talking. And he started telling his story of addiction, of pain, of loss. He said, and my friend, I want you to know that your life can get better. And I said, man, it ain't getting better for me. He said, it can get better, but you need to meet someone. And I looked at him like he was crazy. I said, who I need to meet? He said, in essence, he is a friend in loneliness. He is strength in weakness. He is wholeness when we are wounded. He is everything you will ever need. He is the great I am. His name is Jesus. And man, on a park bench in the middle of the hood, I felt the Spirit of the Lord meet me on that park bench. And it was there that love embraced me. Grace entered my life. The hatred and the bitterness began to melt away. It was there that I began to heal. It was there that I began to find my purpose. And it was there that I got up, went back to school, and turned everything around. So the Lord is the source of my strength, the Alpha, the Omega.
Manny,
Yeah.
I wish we could have so much more time to talk, and maybe we might have to just get you over to Virginia Beach to talk some more. But thank you so much for joining us, and you captured this and much more, and how to turn our lives around in your book, Your Next Chapter. Manny Scott, thank you so much for joining us on Turning Point.
Thank you for having me, my brother. God bless you.